friends, so today topic is thoughts become things. First, we started with how we are addicted. We need to break the habit of being ourselves. And today I'm going to share with you the experiments through few experiments in quantum science or in quantum physics, where they demonstrated that how our thoughts are powerful and the way we look at things. If we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So how the observer affects what is being observed. So we're going to see that few experiments. So this is more of, I'll be sharing a lot of videos today with you all. So friends, Nikola Tesla said, if you wish to understand the secrets of the universe, think of it in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So everything is made up of energy, and that energy is vibrating at a certain frequency. So when we say quantum living or we are living in a quantum world, we understand that we are living in a world of energy. Everything is energy. Nothing is, we may not see it, we may not sense it, we may not feel it, we may not touch it, we may not smell it, we may not hear it, but energy is always there. So if you're thinking a thought, you're vibrating at energy. That's why sometimes we feel, oh, I meet this person, I feel a good vibe, or I feel a bad vibe. So basically it's energy. So everything is energy, and every thought, every emotion is energy. So same way, whatever you're thinking, you're vibrating at certain energy, certain frequency. Whatever you're feeling, you're vibrating certain energy and frequency. In fact, your heart is the biggest biofuel generator. It has its own magnetic pull, and that's where the law of attraction works on our thoughts and our emotions and our feelings. Yeah. So friends, I've repeated it time and again that our thoughts are electric and our feelings are magnetic. So our thoughts send the signal out and the feelings draw the event back. In fact, the thoughts are carried on the frequency of emotions. So basically, even though we want to think positive thoughts, but if we're not feeling positive, if it's not aligned with our feelings, or if our feelings are not aligned with our thoughts, we are not able to manifest what we want in our life. But having said that, thought is like a command to the universe. So there's a huge power of thought, because we intend through our thoughts, through our creative mind, through our brains. So thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. So over a period of time, all these feelings are stored in the body, and the body responds. So actually, our thoughts are our conscious mind, and our feelings represents our subconscious mind, or our body represents the subconscious mind, which is in turn represented by our feelings. Right. So I'll show you a few experiments today, which will demonstrate how all this works. And so first experiment, friends, I'll show you. This experiment was done in a school of metaphysics in Paris, where what they did is chick was born, a newborn baby chick was put next to a random, put a robot which on a plane surface moves anywhere, right? It's a random robot. So the moment you switch it on, it will move anywhere in any direction, unidirection. But the moment this chick was born, from that robot, it was fed. The chick was fed from that robot. And the chick started believing that this robot is her mother, and got attached to that robot. And because every time the chick is hungry, the robot would feed. So she started believing that this robot is like my mother. She's the one who's nurturing me. So it got attached. And the moment, so now let's see the experiment, and then I'll talk more about it. Yeah. So this is a random robot. Now, newborn chick. Now it is being fed from that robot. Now the chick is being put, they put the chick in the cage. So before the chick was in picture, the random robot was moving everywhere. And now the chick is in cage and the chick wants to go close to the robot. It is crying for the robot. It wants to, the chick is hungry. She wants to eat. Now you see that the robot is moving more towards closer to the chick. And this experiment was repeated time and again, and it had the same results. So here you can see before the chick how the robot was moving in the diagram A, and after the chick was put into the cage, it always moved towards the chick. So this is how even though we think that something is inanimate, but how our thoughts have a power over everything to control. And imagine the chick mind, or the frontal lobe, which is the center of creation or intention, is less than 1% of its brain size, where humans' brain size is more than 40%. The frontal lobe is more than 40%, and next to humans is dolphins, which is 27%. So imagine if a chick has so much of power to influence an inanimate object, so how much power do we have through our intentions? And that's why I said that the observer affects what is being observed. So whatever we are observing, we have through our power of observation, we can influence what is being observed. So friends, Einstein said the field is the sole governing agency of matter. So what does he meant by field? So by field he meant a force or the field of, imagine before the planets were born, or before there were the moons or the stars or human beings or animals or plants, there was nothing. That was emptiness. And from that emptiness came everything, right? From the emptiness, everything was born. So everything was born from that emptiness. So even though it was empty, but it carried a potential for everything. It carried a potential of infinite possibilities. And that is what is called field. That is what is called the quantum field, where through our act of observation, the waves of possibilities collapse and turns into matter. So whatever you see today was actually at one time, even though you see something as so solid, but at one time it was only frequency, energies, frequency and vibration. It was only atoms, protons, electrons. And if you break it further, it was only waves of energy and information. And then it turned into a matter. And what you see as matter is actually 0.00001% matter and 99.9999% energy and information. So initially it was all waves of energy and information, and we are all born from the same quantum field. We all came from the same source. That's what we call source. And we all came from the same source. So we are all made of the atoms, and also we all came from the same field. And that's how we're all connected. We're all connected to everything because you cannot separate waves. At the very primary stage, when we are all waves, we are all one. So everything is vibration before it is made manifested with our consciousness. So friends, I'll show you a very interesting experiment, which is called a double slit experiment. What is the double slit experiment? This experiment was done around 30 years back, and what happened is there was a slit, and from a projector or from a gun, they were sending some solid particles or maybe marbles from that slit, and behind the slit there was a board. And when you pass from one slit, you see a line. When you pass from one slit from one line, you see a line behind the board, because those marbles were passing and they were hitting the board behind and in a form of singular line. But when they put electrons, and then if you put waves or maybe water, a liquid, then what happens is when the liquid passes through the slit, it interferes with each other, and it forms multiple lines. especially when it passes through two slits. Then it interferes with each other and passes multiple patterns. And instead of 2 lines, it formed 8 lines. So once you see the experiment, you'll be able to relate what I'm talking about. And now the same thing, when they pass the electrons, they also behave like the liquid. Rather than, even though electron is the tiniest particle object of matter, tiniest particle of matter, but it also behaved like it was liquid. It was like a wave. So very interesting experiment.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, 2 bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through 2 slits, we should get, like the marbles, 2 bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of 2 bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. the electron decided to act differently. As though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange netherworld of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
So a very interesting experiment, and that really brought quantum science to a forefront. So what happened is, when you saw this experiment, first, the three things which happened. First thing which proves that everything is energy. All matter is energy, because at the primary level, they all behave like waves. Everything is energy. So everything works with the principle of energy. And secondly, when they decided to sponsor this electrons at a different timings, one by one, even then it behaved like as if they had gone together. So that means, even though in terms of energy, the time does not exist. In terms of energy, this is beyond time and space. Even though, so after an hour of the whole experiment, they again behaved like the whole wave pattern, and they had bands of the bands on the board. So the second, so that proves that energy is beyond time and space, and that's why Einstein said, we live. Time and space are not the modes in which we live, but in the modes in which we think. So the truth is, time is not linear. Time is not how we think it to be, right? So again, and so that is one conclusion from this experiment. And the third conclusion is, when the scientists decided to peek in, when they decided to observe this, they saw that again it went back to as it behaved like a matter. It behaved like a marble. So because while they were observing, they were very baffled by it, and they thought, how is it possible? If the electron is moving through two slits, it should only form two bands. And with that observation, the electrons behave the way it is being observed. So that means the observer affects what is being observed. So that means that our subjective mind actually has an impact on the objective world. So that is what you say, that the expectancy determines the outcome, So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at it change. So that again gives us so much power to ourselves, that if the way we observe things, that is how the universe behaves with us. So by the very act of observation, we have the power to change how the others will behave in respect to you. So that's why we have a power to actually change the situation around us, or to change others' behavior in respect to you, to us. So that is again a great. So this has been proved by this double slit experiment, and that's why it's called Yad Bhavam Tad Bhavti. As you feel, as you think and feel, is what we draw into your life. That's what's happening into your life. Or Yatha Drishti Tatha Srishti. As your perception is, as your observation is, that is how the world is towards you or around you.
Shreans,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
There are a few participants who feel if you could simplify it.
So friends, we saw while this bands of marble, and then the wave was going through and then later on the electron was going through. So we saw that when the marble was going through, it behaved like a solid particle. When it went through two slits, there were two bands on the wall. Now when they did the liquid, the water, it behaved like a wave. Water has waves. We see how the waves, when we throw a stone in the water, how the waves interfere with each other. So they had an interference pattern and wherever those waves collide with each other, and there's an interference pattern, and then forms, and when it hits the wall, it forms bands. So that's how it formed maybe 8 bands or 10 bands. Now when they send electron to that slit, so that also behave like a wave. So electron is whatever you see as physical, if you break it down further, it is neutrons, electrons, protons, and further it breaks down. So electron is the tiniest particle of the matter, right? So that particle actually also behave like waves. So it proves, so when they put electrons, that also behave like waves, like 8 bands or 10 bands. So that proves that we are all waves of energy and information. Whatever you see as particle is actually waves of energy and information, right? So that is one conclusion from this experiment. Second is when they were shooting this electrons, not in one shot, but at different time zones, maybe over a period of time, one by one. Even then, by the end of 1 hour, they also behave like, again, by like waves. And at the end of the experiment, it was again like multiple bands of on the wall. So that means even though they were not at the same time, they still interfered with each other. So that means energy is neither perishable, it is not destructible. It just still remains. The fact that it was passed through, and even then it was passed on to a later time, it still interfered with each other. And that's how the interim pattern showed. So that means time and space are actually in the modes in which that's what Einstein said, the modes in which we think and not which we live. So again, it is a perception, it is an illusion. So that's what happens in meditation. We transcend time, we go beyond time and space, right? So again, it is a illusion of this three-dimensional reality. And the third experiment, and the third conclusion, when the scientists decided to peek, the scientists decided to observe it again with their, they put a camera and they decided to speak through this camera, and where they were thinking, how can an electron behave like this? It has to behave like marble, because electron is a particle of marble or of matter. So the moment they decided to peak, electron behaved differently. Rather than eight bands, it again went back to 2 bands. They behaved like a marble, because that is what the intention was of the scientists. So the observer affects what is being observed. So that was the third conclusion. Our subjective mind has an impact on the objective world. Through observation, we can change the way how the things are being observed, right? So like that, if somebody is angry with you, so like a judgment is if you're judging somebody, the more we judge, the more the person will behave with you in the same way. So again, because judgment is an observation, it's a perception of that person, of you about that person. So the more you judge, the more you evoke that person to behave in the same way. And if you observe it in a positive way, if you connect with the higher self of that person, and see that person as say calm or peaceful or joyful, you will influence the way that person is behaving to you. The person may not change as a personality, but the way the person will respond to you will change. So that's how the observer affects what is being observed. So that's why it proves that we have a power to change how the others behave in relation to you. So you have a power over the behavior of others. You are not helpless, right?
Can the energy, vibration, frequency be defined? Is it that they can only be felt and not seen? Yeah, that is the question.
No, so nowadays there are a lot of devices. Like if you see a Kalian photography, it measures the energy. Like aura reading, camera which reads the aura. So again, it measures the energy. So nowadays there are so many quantum energy devices. In fact, in Pyramid Valley, we have the whole lab. We have all these devices where we can measure energy. We can see it in the camera, the energy. So now it can be all measured. So everything has a different energy and different frequency, and it could all be measured. Like music, today we have music of different frequencies. So it can be measured. 438 hertz, say 532 hertz, or 438 hertz, or 426 hertz. So different music played at different hertz, different frequency has a different energy, has a different impact. In fact, in our meditation, we use different different music which is calibrated or which is vibrating at a different frequency for a different impact or for a different purpose.